The light merged with his figure, making it impossible to distinguish between them. He could only slightly open his eyes to see. 7 days later, the system notified, you have obtained a top-grade magical sword. The Qilin sword is made from Qilin bones, containing the Qilin soul. It has the power to exorcise evil and absorb souls with the 6 paths of reincarnation, and can activate the inheritance function. Hanju excitedly waved his arms in celebration. My lifespan has increased. Not bad. Breaking through to the Yuaning stage within 100 years should be no problem. If it takes more than 100 years, then I've lost. He stretched his muscles. Then lazily lay down and proudly pressed the screen. Now, let's see what my friends are up to, then I'll continue cultivating. The happiness quickly faded, and Hanju suddenly stared at the screen in fear. The notification read, Friendly Qingzi has been attacked by demonic cultivators. The sect master has been attacked multiple times by the demonic sect? Has the demonic sect infiltrated us? I wonder how master is. It's best to go back and check. He hurriedly flew back with his sword. But the sight before him shocked Hanju. Black smoke shrouded the once elegant Yuling sect, alarms blared, and commands echoed from all directions, those with light injuries, wait. Those seriously injured, take them for treatment, try to gather on the Northwest Plaza for recovery. Countless fellow disciples were injured, exhausted, and gathered together. Standing on the plaza filled with wounded soldiers, Hanju was momentarily speechless. Chang Yuer was busy distributing pills to everyone, and when she saw him, she shouted, Junior brother Han. The once proud and strong girl now looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, scolding him, You still know how to come back? Master said if he finds you, you should meet him. Hanju walked into the familiar great hall, feeling guilty, and bowed, Disciple greets master. After the intersect competition, I was eager to cultivate and forgot to visit master. Please punish me. Fairy Shichuan spoke coldly, You still know how to come back? I thought you had betrayed the sect. Hanju's mind was in turmoil, unable to respond to this seemingly casual yet sarcastic remark. She slowly continued, Now, Yuling sect is about to face an unprecedented disaster. At this point, Fairy Shichuan's gaze became deep, flashing with an unclear meaning. I'll give you a chance. You can leave Yuling sect. These words fell like a heavy weight, pressing down on Hanju. Hanju stood in the pouring rain, his silent figure reflected in the large puddle on the ground. He was stunned, as if struck by lightning, and said, The news of Yuling sect's disaster is so unbelievable, it feels like a prank. Hanju stared wide-eyed, frozen, unable to utter a word, only sweating as he opened his mouth. Just as he hesitated whether to choose the first option, a system notification suddenly popped up, catching Hanju's attention. The system notification said he had 2 options. One is to leave Yuling sect and receive a bottle of qi-gathering pills, the other is to stay and receive a magical artifact and a spellbook. After reading the notification, Hanju lowered his head and softly said, What about master? Fairy Shichuan gently closed her eyes and calmly said, I will live and die with Yuling sect. Suddenly, his voice continued, leaving her somewhat stunned, In that case, let's. Hanju's face grew serious, his eyes filled with determination, emphasizing each word, I, as a disciple, will share life and death with my master. Shi Quan raised an eyebrow in surprise, Aren't you afraid of death? Hanju thought to himself, Of course I'm afraid, but the golden Qi Xian. Suddenly, the system's prompt sound interrupted his thoughts, showing the notification, Master's affection for me has reached 3 stars? Hanju's face looked somewhat unpleasant. If it increases by 1 more star, won't that mean we could develop into Dao partners? After thinking for a moment, he decided to put these thoughts aside. Hanju then raised his hand, his voice like thunder, Ultimately, people must die. One is as light as a feather. The other, as heavy as Mount Tai. I pursue immortality, but I also don't want to abandon my master. He clenched his fists, full of determination. Although he said this, Hanju's eyes were still filled with concern. Unless I encounter someone I cannot defeat, of course, I will protect my own life first. Shi Quan slightly curled her lips, but I never taught you these things. there's no need for you to become like this. As soon as she finished speaking, he immediately denied it. Although you didn't teach me, your kindness is as heavy as a mountain. Every time my master helped me, I deeply remember it. These were truly Hanju's sincere words. He truly hoped she would live a peaceful life. Hearing this, Shi Quan gave a slight smile, her face full of pride, as expected of a disciple of my Yuwu Peak. But it's not that serious. You already have the heart. Suddenly, Chang Yu and I excitedly jumped out. Actually, Master thinks you were afraid of death, so she let you leave first. As a result, she was immediately knocked on the head, and Shi Quan turned around to ask Hanju about his cultivation progress, telling him to follow her. At this point, Shi Quan realized she had never properly taught Hanju. He awkwardly raised his finger and scratched his face. It's nothing. She didn't answer but was cursing. Hanju in her heart, this brat, I just gave him a little guidance, and he doesn't appreciate it. In the end, Shi Quan said no more and let him leave. From within the great tower, Hanju's cheerful voice came, disciple takes his leave. After he left, she instructed Chang Yu and I to go ahead to the next place. Shi Quan picked up a talisman with 2 fingers, help your junior brother, do as I say. The items are all in the storage bag. After hearing this, she curiously glanced at it and nodded obediently in agreement. A while later, in front of Hanju's cave residence, he hesitated and asked, why is senior sister here? How did senior sister enter my cave without anyone here? Hanju opened his eyes wide as he looked at the scene before him. These are. Chang Yu and I glanced at him. Master asked me to help you arrange it. The spiritual herbs are to increase the spiritual energy around your cave. The formation arranged by the red stones needs to be infused with spiritual energy to activate. This formation hides the cave entrance, and if anyone trespasses, they will fall into an illusion and be unable to escape. The spiritual herbs don't need special care, they will automatically enhance the surrounding spiritual energy. Several vibrant spiritual herbs seem to glow under the sunlight. She happily asked Hanju, these aren't bad, right? He couldn't help but say, I didn't expect senior sister to know about these. Hearing this, Chang Yu and I showed a proud smile. Don't look down on my cultivation, I know everything. About alchemy, talismans, and exorcising evil. Hanju immediately bowed to thank her and Shi Quan. Suddenly, Chang Yu and I moved closer to him, her ample chest swaying in front of him, causing Hanju to jump in shock. You can skip the thanks. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, she appeared angelic. In some time, senior sister will move in to keep you company. Hanju broke into a cold sweat, swallowed nervously, and hesitated before calling out twice, senior sister. After a while, Hanju finally spoke amidst the romantic atmosphere. Is senior sister planning to absorb some spiritual energy from my cave? As soon as the words were spoken, Chang Yu and I immediately became gloomy, her whole body shaking involuntarily. Seeing this scene, Hanju immediately stiffened like a stone sculpture, his expression seemingly frozen on his face. 5 years later, in the cave, glaring light streamed through the cave entrance, illuminating the inside. At this point, Hanju had reached the 3rd level of the Golden Core realm, sitting cross-legged in contemplation, checking the system notifications. He flipped through the notifications and saw that Li Qingzi had been attacked continuously by demon cultivators, sighing inwardly. The sect leader is truly pitiful. Brother Ma and Brother Zhou also made the list, luckily I didn't follow them. Suddenly, the system's reminder popped up again, detected a natural-born fortune-bearer. Do you want to investigate their origins? Hearing natural-born fortune-bearer, Hanju immediately became nervous. Is there someone outside the cave? The notification displayed information about the innate demon fetus, Chen Sanqian. He frowned, pondering, what is a core disciple of the demon sect doing in Yuking sect? I wonder if he's alone or bringing an army. As Hanju thought, if it's just him alone, I should have the upper hand. Outside, Chen Sanqian was reciting the words carved on the stone, endure for a moment, and the wind will calm. After finishing, he sneered and mocked, Yuking sect people are indeed nothing but head-shrinking turtles. Suddenly, Chen Sanqian realized the strangeness of this place. How could such a desolate place have so much fame? He immediately concluded, this must be a cave, but then scratched his head, puzzled. I wonder where the entrance is? Hanju was observing him through the barrier. Upon hearing Chen Sanqian call him a head-shrinking turtle, he was furious, his fingers trembling involuntarily, veins bulging. Outside, Chen Sanqian's words rang out again, "Finished, little brat." Hanju gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with killing intent, coldly staring at Chen Sanqian. "It's almost confirmed he's alone, I should give him a good reception." Just as the decision was made, Chen Sanqian sensed killing intent nearby. Chen Sanqian was not ready yet when three sword energies simultaneously cut across his body. He widened his eyes, incredulously staring at the scene before him. These three sword energies were Hanju's Qingju Shadow Sword, and in less than a second, Chen Sanqian was knocked down. He was sent flying far away, crashing to the ground, then falling into a cloud of smoke and dust. This move can break spiritual energy, leaving no chance to counter. After a while, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed, revealing Chen Sanqian lying on the ground. Suddenly, he noticed the technique suspended in the air and hurriedly looked up in panic. Chen Sanqian, covered in blood, hurriedly begged, "Senior, let go." A voice came from inside the cave. "What are you doing in Yuking sect?" Chen Sanqian immediately explained, "This is all a misunderstanding, I was just passing by." At this moment, he was extremely nervous. Who is this person? I clearly investigated. Yuking sect doesn't have such a powerful sword cultivator elder. Chen Sanqian narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be the Grand Elder of Yuking sect? At that moment, Hanju suddenly appeared behind him, calling out in a deep voice, "Innate demon fetus, disciple of the Qingming demon sect. If I hand you over to Yuking sect, what do you think will happen to you?" Chen Sanqian's first thought was, how does this person know my identity? Then, he suddenly turned around and shouted loudly, "I was wrong. Please give me a chance." When he saw the young, beautiful face in front of him, Chen Sanqian guessed, "Are you a disciple of the senior?" Hanju was thinking whether he should hand him over to the sect as a hostage exchange. While thinking, suddenly, a sharp blade was pressed against his neck. After placing the knife on Hanju's neck, Chen Sanqian immediately angrily threatened the cave, "Senior, let me go, otherwise I will kill your disciple." Suddenly, a calm voice rang out, stunning him, "Then please wait a moment." After Hanju said, "I have no disciple," the atmosphere immediately became very awkward and embarrassing, as if Chen Sanqian had turned to stone. Once he regained his senses, he immediately curled up and kneeled on the ground, trembling as he said, "I was just joking." At this point, Chen Sanqian was greatly frightened. Senior is at the early stage of the 9th layer, it must be an illusion. Technique able to suppress me and even see through my identity, definitely a master. There's no chance of escaping now. Hanju was slightly disappointed. The core disciple of the demon sect is only at this level? I was still hesitating earlier, wondering if he's too weak or if the 3 pure absolute shadow sword is too strong. Thinking this, Hanju suddenly turned and scratched his head as he walked towards the cave. "Never mind. Come with me." Hearing this, Chen Sanqian immediately thanked Hanju loudly for not killing him. Inside the cave, several stalactites continuously dripped water, falling into a small stone pool. He led the way inside. "We can't force him now, we have to find a way to keep him here." Chen Sanqian followed Hanju inside, curiously looking around. So this is a hidden entrance formation. He nervously speculated, "Originally, I planned to hand him over to my master, but he would definitely try to escape, so I would have to kill him. Now, he doesn't dare to run, maybe he has overestimated me." Thinking of this, Hanju suddenly called Chen Sanqian's name, and he immediately looked over in panic. Hanju casually pointed to his own face, asking Chen Sanqian to stab him with all his strength. Upon hearing this, Chen Sanqian immediately rolled his eyes. "Senior, are you looking for an excuse to kill me?" Chen Sanqian panicked and yelled in a fluster, "I was wrong." Hanju remained calm. "Not going to try? Do you still want to sneak attack me later?" Upon hearing this, Chen Sanqian immediately shook his head in denial, and when Hanju said he didn't blame him, Chen Sanqian immediately asked to bow and apologize. He didn't know that Hanju wasn't worried because of the golden lotus Xianshan protecting him. Hanju helplessly looked at how Qin Sanqian curled up in fear, then arranged his work. Am I really that scary? I didn't expect this person to be so timid. These colorful flower clusters were enveloped by sunlight and spiritual energy. Sunlight poured through the cave entrance, lighting up the inside. Hanju sat in the center of the entrance, basking in the brightest and strongest sunlight. In a dark corner, Qin Sanqian was secretly observing him. Senior, your cultivation is truly impressive, you've never stepped out of the door. After thinking for a moment, he lowered his head and said with concern, I've been here for a year, if this continues, the information will be delayed. Qin Sanqian frowned and looked at Hanju again. As a core disciple, you haven't come back, the elders and the master must be very worried. What should I do? After thinking it through, he suddenly felt murderous intent. Take action while he's cultivating, maybe there will be a chance. Once the thought crossed his mind, Qin Sanqian immediately acted, the veins on his hand bulging. At that moment, Qin Sanqian rushed towards where Hanju was sitting. If I can, I'll make you pay a hundredfold. I'm a demon fetus, everyone who hears it wets their pants, from the Qingming demon sect. Just then, Hanju suddenly seemed to have eyes on the back of his head, turning sharply, his gaze filled with killing intent. He immediately turned and pretended to be swatting a mosquito. Sorry, I was disturbed, there was a mosquito. Hanju saw this and just pursed his lips in silence. Suddenly, the system's notification sound rang. Seeing the system notification that Qin Sanqian's hatred level had reached 4 stars, then watching him obediently go to clean, Hanju was speechless. He silently sat down and thought, I haven't tormented Qin Sanqian this year, nor contacted the sect to protect him. But now his hatred level has reached 4 stars. Behind him, after Qin Sanqian turned and left, he immediately began to think of a way. Once he goes out, I can escape, he can't keep cultivating like this. When I go out, I'll lead the sect to wipe out this mountain. He furrowed his brow, his face full of determination. Qin Sanqian squinted his eyes, a glimmer of hope for the future flashing in his eyes. At that time, I'll settle all the debts from this year. While thinking this, he suddenly widened his eyes in shock, his eyeballs almost falling out. At that moment, Qin Sanqian had a huge hole in his chest, created by Hanju from behind. The Tianqing Absolute Shadow Sword had gathered into a line. Hanju coldly declared, I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Be obedient, and you might still have some value as a hostage. Now, there's no need. Before the words were finished, Qin Sanqian's body collapsed, flesh and blood scattering in all directions. Afterward, Hanju began to think about the next steps. This person is connected to some strange elder. Once he dies, those old monsters will sense it and come after me. At that moment, suddenly, a strange smoke emerged from the corpse beneath his feet, causing him to pause in surprise. Hanju looked at the figure of the real Zhang demon slowly appearing from the smoke and couldn't help but be startled. Is it really him, or is it a fake? The person widened his bloodshot eyes and gritted his teeth, saying, You killed my beloved disciple, that means you're dead. As soon as the words were spoken, Zhang demon pointed at Hanju and angrily said, Do you have the guts to say your name? Hanju calmly lied, not even lifting his eyelids, I am Cao Cao, and you? Hearing this, the person immediately burst into wild laughter, introducing himself, I am Zhang demon from the Qingming demon sect. Cao Cao. I remember you now, wait to die. After saying that, he disappeared into the air in front of your eyes. At this moment, the system popped up with a notification, Zhang Renma's hatred value towards Hanju is 5 stars. You looked at the hatred value and sighed, holding your head, oh no, why is it so high? Hanju is only at the 8th level of the nascent soul stage, not even in the divine transformation stage, so he can't resist him. After thinking for a while, you decided to contact the sect to send someone to clear the hatred. 8 years later, still in the familiar cave, with a motto engraved on the door, Xing Hongchuan stood at the entrance and shouted twice, husband. She gently walked in, happily raising her hand and pretending to ask, is my husband home? Then, Xing Hongchuan excitedly ran in, shouting husband, which startled Hanju, who shouted, Senior sister is fine, but now even she is using formations to pretend. After calming down, you asked Xing Hongchuan, what's the matter? She immediately took out something that shocked Hanju. Let me show you this treasure.